Now, ladies and gentlemen, Valve after 2 weeks of silence have just spoken. Early yesterday afternoon, Valve sent out a tweet alongside a 1.8 gigabyte blog post, fixing some new and minor outstanding bugs, alongside some adjustments to maps in the current pool, as well as spawns, which we'll get into later. Today's video, there's much to discuss. We're gonna break down this most recent blog post, show changes such as spawns, and a bunch more. Today's video sponsor is SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a buying and trading marketplace where you can trade off your old skins for something new. All you do is log in with Steam, then you trade the skins you no longer want to pick up the new skins you want to obtain. Any remaining cash from trading goes to your balance that can be used in any future trade. By using my code Mando, you can get up to a free $5, and if you choose to deposit alongside using my code, you get a total of a 35% deposit bonus. With SkinsMonkey's large variety of skins, they also offer daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways. If interested, it'll be the top of the link in the description below. Firstly, for today's video is the blog post. You would think with 1.8 gigs they'd have to add some new content, right? Well, no. For verification, Valve has not added any new content. These are just some bug fixes and changed some minor things on Inferno and maps in the map pool, that being spawns, which in theory could change gameplay, which we'll get into later as well. Now, according to the blog post, there's 4 different categories. Starting with miscellaneous, then you have maps, and it seems almost as if Inferno has its own category, but I'm not really sure if it's a sub or its own. So it's 4 if you count that, alongside the workshop at the very bottom. Starting off in the miscellaneous category, we're going to begin with spawns. At the very top, spawn positions are no longer randomly determined. When a player reconnects during a server freeze time, that spawn point sequence is now configured at the beginning of the map and is saved/restored from backup files. Now, to put this into context and give you an example, let's just say you start a premiere match, right? You boot in, you have a really good spawn location. Maybe it's on Mirage, you can peek mid, maybe you're the main opper. And let's just say your game crashes or your game freezes, you have to exit out and then come back in. Your teammates call a timeout so the round hasn't started. Well, instead of spawning on the other side, not mid, you now spawn at that front forward position. Now, I'm not sure if these spawns are just for the entire game, so you have one dedicated spot on each side of the game, being CT and T, or if it's determined per round. And by the sound of what Valve said in this very first point, it sounds like it's per round and not every point in the match. The 3 points underneath it are pretty much subcategories for the main point in the miscellaneous part, where it's just all to do with spawns. Valve also mentioned they fixed a bunch of bugs where your players would get a black screen after disconnecting and reconnecting multiple times during a tactical or technical timeout. Same thing goes with disconnecting and reconnecting in a competitive match would incorrectly interact with bot spawning algorithm. Mixed players jumping higher than normal when toggling low frame rate. And this specifically, for those who don't know, this is actually a pretty well-known problem on every single game, not just Counter-Strike. Let's just say you go play a really old game on Steam. Let's just take Call of Duty Black Ops or Black Ops 2. If you set the frame rate to unlimited, it's almost as if the animations can't keep up with how high your frame rate is, which that is true. You try and strafe jump, just jump in general, sometimes it won't register because it can't keep up. Or sometimes you do, but it doesn't look like you jumped on your screen. It now fixes all of those problems. I'm not sure if Counter-Strike had a similar situation or a similar problem, but it's definitely what it sounds like. And speaking of frame rate, I will mention in this update that I got around a 10% boost after booting up, playing a couple games, also going into deathmatch and playing a few different matches in different maps. Valve also mentioned they fixed smoke and shadow rendering issues for improvements to perf. Now, how smokes look now, they're still not great, but they're nowhere near as bad as they were just a few days ago. Ever since that Call to Arms update, smokes have been, well, completely buggy. First it was frame rate issues and they also looked bad, then the frame rate issues were fixed but they still looked horrible, and now they just look a little bit better but still bad. In my opinion, they should just remove the whole feature of, well, having smokes casting shadows, because they do not look good. Valve also fixed an issue of an instance of weapon switches sometimes being ignored by the server. This sounds very familiar and similar to, well, the nade glitch just a couple months back, where if you cycled through your nades, you threw it, the server wouldn't be able to register what you threw, so it would just go back into your inventory. Another thing to mention, which could affect gameplay in some sort of way, players who are kicked from official competitive servers for too many suicides will now be issued a competitive cooldown. I'm assuming this is not like a griefing ban or anything, but you are going to receive something in the nature of when you leave a game, you're going to receive a 30-minute to a 7-day ban. Now, in the maps category, it seems like there's 2 different categories, but Inferno is a sub, I'm not really sure. Now, they adjusted spawn location priorities in Premier and competitive game modes, that also being in Anubis, Inferno, Mirage, Nuke, Overpass, and Vertigo, which we'll hop into that right after this. In the Inferno category, they did fix some things on the map, so it makes me think that Valve is probably switching some things up on Inferno, so pro players but also casuals will play it just a little bit more. They fixed some gaps, they raised plywood at the top of Banana to cover head visibility, they smoothed ground movement in Banana and a bomb site, they raised the arc exit towards mid, or raised arc in arc, they removed bench near library, and lastly they removed the construction cone and underpass. Now, in the workshop category, this is pretty much for everyone creating stickers, skins, knives, whatever you want to name it, and you put it on the workshop, so it's great for that, great for skin creators, but we're here for the gameplay changes. Essentially with spawns, what they did on pretty much every single map, if you're on a CT side, it seems like you're in a U or C shape, and you're all extremely close together. If you're on the T side, it seems like you're more stragged, you're in a different line. The biggest change that I noticed in the T side spawns is for Inferno. The spawn room there is actually pretty big, it's a lot bigger than what CSGO had, and when you have someone spawn in the very back and they're nowhere close to the front, especially where everyone else, it's harder to drop them a weapon, it's harder for them to drop you a weapon, or a nade for an example. Now that everyone's a little bit closer, I think they're now in an arm's reach of dropping a weapon, or whatever else you want, which is pretty awesome. That's something I noticed, especially with the Mirage example I gave at the beginning of the video, that could change up gameplay quite a bit. In some instances on CT side Mirage and CT Nuke, it seems like you're a little bit too close. Same thing with Anubis. I like the idea of having especially the CTs all together, because it seems like the CT side would be more coordinated than the Ts if you're looking at CS lore, but I think this change is definitely for the better and definitely would help coordination before the round starts. Now, the biggest and best changes for today's update was definitely the FPS improvement, the smokes looking and feeling a little bit better, but also the spawn locations. That's probably going to take a couple more updates of adjusting, especially before the major starts, to feel normal, maybe a little more polished, but overall I think it's pretty good. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay positive, stay sexy. I'm out, guys. Peace.